So SHRM estimates right now that 1 in 4 employees dreads going into work. And as a company that focuses on culture, this just breaks our heart, right? And so we talk to groups of leaders, we're talking to employees. And when we look at the sick time, the lack of productivity, everything that's affecting our business, it's affecting business results. And so here we are with this gap that's been created. And we talk a lot about what is the answer to bridging the gap. And the hard part is with every organization, the answer is going to look a little bit different. And so bridging the gap really means on one side of the gap, we have companies who want innovation and creative ways to solve customer problems and new ideas and, an increased level of performance and productivity. And on the other side, we have leaders who are drowning under the work that's already on their plate and don't have time to dedicate, they believe, right to the people and to the things they need to be able to lift up to create those things. On one side, we have employees who are telling us in surveys that I don't feel like people understand my strengths or I really feel a sense of belonging. And on the other side, we have leaders who have never been taught how to do that, how to create the space for those types of conversations. And so what's happening is we're seeing this bridge, this gap be created, and both sides are standing comfortably uncomfortable on either side, not knowing what to do. And so the answer is not the organization is wrong and they need to do something different, or our leaders are poor and they need to do their jobs. And it's also not that the employees are lazy and that they're not doing what we need them to do. It's meeting in the middle. So what we want to talk to leadership teams and organizations and their employees about is, how do we level up our leadership? How do we teach them the skills? How do we help them understand how to lead themselves first? And then how do we also empower the employees to create space for the conversations they want to have? How do we help them understand how to have a conversation with their leader to talk about the strengths that aren't being utilized? Because ultimately, as leaders, all of us want to use the strengths of the people around us. Sometimes we just don't know what those are. We don't know what their passion areas are. And so the biggest focus for us is, how do we tie all of this to business results? Because that's in the end what we all need and want to maintain our jobs, to feel excited about the company that we work for and what it's doing and the impact it's having. But first, we have to start with creating the space for those human-to-human conversations. And so as leaders in an organization, the questions that you need to be asking right now are, do our leaders at all levels of the organization truly understand what we expect of them as leaders, not as doers? Right? Do they understand the leadership competencies that are truly part of our culture or the culture that we want to build? And are we having those conversations with leaders to help them understand where their gaps are at, and to figure out a plan to close those gaps for all of the leaders? The second question that we need to really look at as an organization is, are we creating the processes and the approaches to empower our employees to have these conversations and to own their own development? If we are not creating the space that is specifically carved out for development conversations, not performance conversations, but what are you passionate about? What parts of your job do you love the most? Are we asking different questions of our employees to really turn them on and to light the fire within them? Because when we do that, right, it creates business results. It creates momentum in the business. There's a stat that I read recently where it talks about studies around the real performance of our employees in our organization. And on average, they give us about 40% of what they're truly capable of. And now sometimes to leaders, they'll look at that and say, people are just coming in and not doing the work. And that's not what we're saying at all. What we're saying is they don't actually know how to leverage their own strengths. They don't know where they can use them in the organization. And so we're just not tapping into the potential that we actually have. And so if we step back for a second and let's compare an employee at 40% productivity and performance with a machine in a manufacturing plant at 40% utilization and capacity. We would absolutely do something if one of our manufacturing, plant floor systems or machines was running at 40%. But our biggest asset and typically our most expensive asset in an organization, if it's running at 40%, we don't do anything about it, right? We don't do the work to change that. And so that is where business results are sliding right now, because we have a lot of people in our organizations, ourselves included as leaders, who are tired. And so how do we get through the tired? Is we start to create space for different conversations. We start to energize the organization in a different way, and that takes work, right? But that's what our Conscious Leader series is for at Keystone, the development of our Emerging Leader series. For people who aren't even leaders yet, how do we start to create that fire, right? And that passion within them before we need them to lead others. It's what we do through our strategic planning, because we believe strategic planning can be an energy shot for the organization if we do it right and we figure out how to roll that out throughout the organization. It's clearly what we do through our culture work and the focus groups that we work on. And so that is why we exist. So if these are some of the things that you're dealing with in your organization right now, please reach out, because please know there are people out there that have expertise and have perspectives from many different businesses to come in and help you and your leaders be better. Not to tell you what you're doing wrong, not to completely change the organization, but to help you fine-tune the great thing that you already have and figure out how to utilize your biggest asset, your people, as both a competitive advantage and to drive true business results.